activity of vascular cambium. So this activity of vascular cambium, it shows it undergo cell division and cut off cells towards inner side and even towards outer side. Let's study the second step of secondary growth, that is activity of vascular cambium. I am writing vascular cambium as VC, right? So what is the origin of vascular cambium now? Origin of vascular cambium is partly primary and partly secondary in origin. Why it is partly primary in origin? Because intravascular vascular cambium is primary in origin, right? Partly secondary in origin because intervascular vascular cambium is secondary in origin. It is formed in the later stages of plant life, that is during secondary growth, whereas intravascular vascular cambium is present in plants from the beginning of plant life. Okay, and hence partly primary in origin and partly secondary in origin, right? So origin of vascular cambial ring, which is formed inside the stele, that is stelar cambium. That is vascular cambium is partly primary and partly secondary in origin. Now after formation of this vascular cambium, it shows its activity. Now we are going to study about the activity of vascular cambium. Okay, now the cells present in this vascular cambium. So let's say this is a cell present in vascular cambium. Cells present in vascular cambium shows periclinal divisions. So what is periclinal division? Periclinal division is the division which occurs inside the cell. Cell division which occurs inside the cell, which is which is parallel to the axis of the cell. This is the axis of the cell. Now this cell division is taking place parallel side with the axis of the cell. Suppose this is the cell, right? If cell division occurs in this manner, this is called perpendicular. This cell division is taking place perpendicular to the axis of the cell. What is this type of cell division? Anticlinal cell division. But here, in case of the cells which are present in vascular cambium ring, undergo periclinal divisions. Periclinal division is the division in which cells undergo periclinal division means the cell division occurs towards the parallel side of the axis of the cell. Periclinal division. The division which occurs parallelly towards to the axis of the cell is called as periclinal division, right? Okay, after periclinal division, it cuts off cells towards outer side and even towards inner side. So this is vascular cambial ring, right? It is cutting off cells towards, it is depositing cells towards inner side and even towards outer side. So the cells which are deposited towards outer side get redifferentiated. Actually, vascular cambium is formed by dedifferentiation. Intervascular vascular cambium is formed by dedifferentiation, that is by regaining the capacity of cell division. Again, the cells formed by the secondary meristem, that is vascular cambium, re-lose the capacity of cell division and get redifferentiated back into secondary permanent cells, which together form secondary permanent tissues, right? So the cells which are deposited towards outer side get redifferentiated into secondary permanent tissue, that is secondary phloem, right? Now the cells which are deposited towards inner side get redifferentiated into secondary permanent tissue, that is secondary xylem. Okay, now this vascular cambium is more active towards inner side than towards outer side. So this vascular cambium is more active towards inner side than towards outer side. Inner side than towards outer side. So if it is more active towards inner side, what type of tissue is formed more and more? Secondary xylem is formed more and more, right? Towards inner side, what will be formed? Secondary xylem. So the amount of secondary xylem formed is more than the amount of secondary phloem formed towards outer side. How many times it is more? This is 8 to 10 times more, because this vascular cambium shows more activity, that is 8 to 10 times more activity towards inner side than towards outer side, and hence the amount of secondary xylem which is formed towards inner side is 8 to 10 times more than the secondary phloem which is formed towards outer side, right? Okay, so this is about the activity of vascular cambium. Now let's study the third step of secondary growth. What is that third step? Third step is the types of cells formed by the activity of this vascular cambium, right? Okay, so types of cells. Types of cells formed by the activity of secondary growth. Activity of vascular cambium. So, this vascular cambium forms two types of cells. Two types of cells towards outer side and even towards inner side. It forms two types of cells. Those two types of cells are ray initials and fusiform initials. So, fusiform initials and ray initials. So, both the type of cells are formed, both types of cells are formed towards outer side and inner side. That means towards outer side, both fusiform cells and fusiform initials and ray initials, which are also called as radial initials. Ray initials or radial initials. Right? Okay. So, towards outer side also, fusiform and ray initials will be formed. Towards inner side also, that is towards secondary xylem. Also, ray initials and fusiform initials are formed. So, these fusiform initials are involved in the formation of vertical system of secondary phloem and secondary xylem. So, these fusiform initials they develop into vertical system of secondary phloem and secondary xylem. Phloem and secondary xylem, right? What is this vertical system? The part of the secondary phloem and secondary xylem which is present vertically inside the stem, that is called vertical system, right? Which is involved in the conduction of water and minerals vertically. Secondary xylem is involved in the conduction of water and minerals vertically, whereas secondary phloem is involved in the conduction of food materials vertically, right? Okay, what about ray initials? Ray initials are involved in the formation of radial system. Radial system of secondary xylem and secondary phloem. Right? Okay, so what is the function of the secondary xylem, radial system of secondary xylem and secondary phloem? They are forming the horizontal part or radial part which is involved in the secondary xylem. Radial secondary xylem is also called as ray parenchyma, right? And this ray parenchyma is involved in sideway conduction of water, right? Radial conduction. So, this is radial system. Is it clear? And some of these ray cells, some of these ray initials are also involved in the formation of medullary rays, which are called secondary medullary rays. These medullary rays which are formed during secondary growth are called as secondary medullary rays, and the medullary rays which are present in the plant from the beginning are called as primary medullary rays, which are present between vascular bundles. From these primary medullary rays only, the parenchymatous cells present in these primary medullary rays only get dedifferentiated into interfascicular vascular cambium, that is secondary meristem, right? So, now this ray initials are also involved in the formation of medullary rays called secondary medullary rays. Secondary medullary rays which extend between secondary permanent tissues, that is secondary phloem and secondary xylem. Secondary medullary rays extend between secondary xylem and secondary phloem, right? So, they extend between secondary xylem and secondary phloem. Okay, so this is about the activity of vascular cambium and the types of cells which are involved in the formation of what? Radial system Radial system of secondary xylem and secondary phloem, and vertical system of secondary xylem and secondary phloem. Now next I will give the diagrammatic representation of the stem, dicot stem after secondary growth. Now